The discovery. The galactic trade station Nexus Prime hung in the void between three star systems, its massive rings spinning slowly against the backdrop of distant nebulae. Commander Vex of the Alterran Security Fleet reviewed the morning reports from his command center, expecting another routine day of monitoring merchant vessels and tourist shuttles. The station served as a neutral meeting point for dozens of alien species. Tall, blue-skinned Alterans worked alongside insectoid cliques and crystalline Vortons. The atmosphere hummed with the constant chatter of universal translators converting hundreds of languages into coherent speech. "Sir, we have an unknown contact on long-range sensors," reported Officer Nix, her four eyes focused on the holographic display. "It's strange. The ship design doesn't match any known configuration in our database." Vex approached the scanner station, his scaled hands clasping behind his back. The image showed a sleek vessel, smaller than most cargo haulers, but larger than typical fighters. Its hull gleamed with an odd metallic finish, and strange geometric patterns covered its surface. "Origin?" Vex asked. "Unknown, sir. The ship appeared on our sensors 3 hours ago, traveling at standard cruise speed. No distress signals, no communication attempts." The commander studied the vessel's approach vector. It moved with purpose, directly toward their station. Most species announced themselves when entering neutral space, following protocols established by the Galactic Council centuries ago. "Have you tried standard hailing frequencies?" "Yes, sir." No response. "The ship maintains course and speed." Vex felt his chest plates tighten with unease. In his 20 years of service, he had encountered ships from every known civilization. This vessel belonged to none of them. The design philosophy seemed completely alien, not just different, but fundamentally wrong in ways he couldn't articulate. "Alert status yellow," he ordered. "Notify the council representatives on board, and patch me through to the station's defense grid." As alarms began their low, rhythmic pulse throughout the station, beings from dozens of worlds looked up from their business. The clique's antennae twitched nervously, while the Vorton's crystalline bodies flickered with agitated colors. Dr. Kale, the station's xenobiologist, arrived at the command center within minutes. Her pale Alteran features showed curiosity rather than concern. "Commander, I've been studying the sensor readings. This ship's energy signature is unlike anything in our records." "Explain." "Most civilizations use quantum fusion or antimatter systems. This vessel shows signs of something entirely different. The power output suggests they've somehow contained and controlled what appears to be a miniature star." Vex's eyes widened. Such technology was purely theoretical, even among the most advanced council races. "That's impossible." "The readings don't lie, sir. And there's something else. The ship's hull composition includes materials we can't identify. Our sensors are having difficulty penetrating their exterior shielding." On the main display, the mysterious vessel continued its steady approach. Its trajectory would bring it to docking range within 2 hours. "Sir," Nix called out, "I'm detecting additional contacts. Multiple ships, same configuration, appearing on our outer perimeter." The display updated to show 7 more vessels, all identical to the first, all converging on the station from different vectors. Their coordinated approach suggested military precision. Vex felt his respiratory slits flutter with anxiety. "Red alert. Close all docking bays and raise shields. Send an immediate priority transmission to Council Command." Throughout Nexus Prime, beings scrambled to secure their belongings and seek shelter. The station's defensive systems powered up for the first time in 3 years, energy barriers shimmering to life around critical sections. "Commander," Dr. Kale said quietly, "I've been running comparisons against our archaeological databases. These ships, they don't match any known extinct civilization either. We're looking at something completely new. Or something very old that we've never encountered." Vex replied grimly. The 8 unknown vessels maintained their approach, seemingly unconcerned by the station's defensive posture. Their lack of communication grew more ominous with each passing minute. Any theories on their intentions? Vex asked his science officer. Unknown, sir. They could be explorers, traders, or... She paused. Or what? Or something else entirely. Commander, what if they're not here for peaceful contact? Vex stared at the approaching formation, each ship now clearly visible on visual scanners. The vessels moved with a fluid grace that suggested advanced maneuvering systems. Their silence spoke louder than any threat. Prep the evacuation protocols, he ordered quietly, and pray to whatever gods you believe in that we're wrong about this. The unknown ships drew closer, and Nexus Prime braced for first contact with a species that would soon prove to be humanity's harbinger to the galaxy. First Contact Protocol. The lead human vessel Freedom's Edge approached the massive alien station with its captain, Jack Stone, studying the readings on his command screen. The retired military officer turned explorer had seen many wonders during humanity's first venture beyond their home system, but nothing quite like this sprawling structure. Captain, we're receiving multiple hailing attempts on various frequencies, reported Communications Officer Lisa Park. The Universal Translator is having some difficulty, but it appears they want us to identify ourselves. Stone nodded to his crew of 12, all volunteers from Earth's first deep space exploration program. They had been traveling for 8 months, following ancient radio signals that led them to this hub of galactic civilization. Open a channel, Lisa. Time to introduce ourselves to the neighborhood. Meanwhile, aboard Nexus Prime, Commander Vex watched the lead vessel slow to a full stop just outside their defense perimeter. After hours of tense silence, his communications board finally activated. The voice that emerged was unlike anything in their databases, neither the mechanical tones of the clicks nor the harmonic resonances of the Vortons. It carried an organic warmth that somehow conveyed both intelligence and amusement. This is Captain Jack Stone of the human vessel Freedom's Edge. We're explorers from the Sol system, seeking peaceful contact with galactic civilization. We noticed your impressive station and thought we'd stop by to say hello. The casual tone sent ripples of confusion through the command center. Dr. Kale's instruments went wild as she tried to analyze the transmission's origin. Commander, their language structure is completely unique. The translator is working overtime just to make sense of their communication patterns. Vex activated the station's external speakers, his voice carrying across multiple frequencies. Unknown vessel, this is Commander Vex of Galactic Trade Station, Nexus Prime. You have entered neutral space without proper identification or council clearance. State your intentions. A pause, then Stone's voice returned, still carrying that strange warmth. Council clearance. Sorry, Commander, but we're new around here. We didn't know there was paperwork involved. We're just curious about meeting new folks and maybe doing some trading if you're interested. The word folks had no direct translation in any known language, leaving the universal translators to approximate its meaning as beings of similar social standing. The casual familiarity of the term shocked the alien observers. Sir, Officer Nix whispered, should we treat this as a diplomatic incident? Before Vex could respond, Dr. Kale's excited voice cut through the tension. Commander, you need to see this. I've been analyzing their ship's composition, and the results are extraordinary. The display showed a detailed breakdown of the human vessel's hull. Instead of the standard alloys used by council races, the ship incorporated materials that seemed almost primitive by galactic standards: steel, titanium, and other basic elements. How is that possible? Vex demanded. Those materials couldn't withstand the stresses of faster-than-light travel. That's just it, sir. According to my readings, they're not using any known FTL technology. Their propulsion system appears to be based on controlled fusion reactions and something called a warp drive that somehow folds space-time itself. On the human ship, Stone turned to his science officer, Dr. Mike Chen. What are you reading from that station, Doc? It's incredible, Captain. The structure spans nearly 50 kilometers and houses what appears to be hundreds of different species. The technology is advanced but conservative. They're using quantum fusion like we theorized about 20 years ago. Stone smiled. Humanity had always been innovative by necessity, developing unique solutions to problems that more established civilizations had solved through different means. Captain Stone. Vex's voice returned over the comm. Your ships have been detected by our sensors. We count 8 vessels total. Are you planning an invasion? The human captain's laughter carried clearly across the channel, a sound so alien that several species on the station stopped their activities to listen. Invasion. Commander, we've got 12 people total spread across our little fleet. We're scientists, engineers, and explorers, not soldiers. Though I admit, we do tend to travel in groups. Safety in numbers and all that. The casual admission that their entire force consisted of 12 individuals sent shockwaves through the command center. Most council ships carried crews of hundreds. 12 beings. Vex repeated, certain the translation was incorrect. 12 humans, yes sir. We're a bit spread out, but we like to explore thoroughly. Would it be possible to dock? We'd love to meet some of the local species and maybe grab a decent meal. Ship food gets old after 8 months. As the implications of humanity's arrival began to sink in, Vex realized they weren't dealing with a military force or even a standard diplomatic mission. They were dealing with something far more dangerous, pioneers. The humans dock. Commander Vex made the decision that would change galactic history forever. Against his better judgment and the protests of his security chief, he granted the humans permission to dock at Bay 7, the station's quarantine facility. Sir, this is highly irregular, Security Chief Tark grumbled, his reptilian features showing clear disapproval. We don't know anything about these humans or their intentions, which is exactly why we need to meet them properly, Vex replied, though his own doubts gnawed at him. Have medical teams standing by and keep weapons scanners active. The human ship Freedom's Edge maneuvered into the docking bay with surprising grace for such a primitive vessel. As the airlock sealed and atmosphere equalized, beings throughout the station pressed against observation windows to catch a glimpse of the newcomers. Captain Stone stepped through the airlock first, and the assembled aliens fell silent. The human stood roughly 2 meters tall, with brown hair and skin that seemed to change color slightly under the station's lights. His clothing was simple, a blue uniform with small metal insignia. What struck the observers most was his posture. Unlike the rigid formality of most council species or the defensive crouch of predators, Stone carried himself with relaxed confidence. He looked around the docking bay with obvious curiosity, and was he smiling? Thank you for the hospitality, Commander, Stone said, extending his hand toward Vex. Jack Stone, nice to meet you. Vex stared at the outstretched appendage, unsure of its purpose. Dr. Kale quickly whispered, I believe it's a greeting gesture, sir. Tentatively, Vex extended his own scaled hand. Stone grasped it firmly and moved it up and down several times before releasing it. The simple contact sent ripples of shock through the observing crowd. Most species avoid physical contact during first meetings, Vex observed. Really? Where we come from? A handshake seals deals and starts friendships. Speaking of which, this place is amazing. How many different species live here? The human's enthusiasm was infectious and deeply unsettling. Most civilizations approached first contact with elaborate protocols and cautious formality. Stone acted as if he were visiting a neighbor's house. Behind him, 3 more humans emerged from the airlock. Lysa Park, the communications officer, immediately began taking pictures with the small device. Dr. Chen pulled out instruments to take atmospheric readings. The 4th human, Engineer Tom Wilson, started examining the docking bay's technical systems with obvious professional interest. Incredible engineering, Wilson commented to no one in particular. The gravitational stabilizers alone must have cost a fortune to install. Tark stepped forward, his hand resting on his sidearm. Commander, they're scanning our facilities. Stone noticed the security chief's aggressive posture and held up his hands peacefully. Easy there, friend. We're just curious about how things work. Tom here is our engineer. He gets excited about good craftsmanship. You study our technology without permission. Vex demanded. Study? No, just appreciate. Like admiring a well-built house. Stone's casual response deflated the tension. Look, we understand this is unusual. Where we come from, when neighbors meet, they show each other around, share a meal, maybe trade stories. Is that not how things work here? Dr. Kale stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic caution. Captain Stone, your species evolved as social creatures. Very much so. Humans are pack animals at heart. We work better together than apart. He looked around the diverse crowd. Actually, this reminds me of home. Different folks, different skills, all making something bigger than themselves. The word folks again. Several aliens exchanged glances, struggling with the concept of referring to unknown species in such familiar terms. Your species designation puzzles us, Vex admitted. You call yourselves human but refer to others as folks. Are you indicating we share common ground? Stone's smile widened. Commander, intelligence is intelligence, right? You think, you feel, you build things, you care about your people. The details might be different, but the important parts seem pretty similar. This casual assumption of equality sent shockwaves through the assembled crowd. The galactic community was built on careful hierarchies and protocols. Species interacted based on technological advancement, territorial holdings, and council standing. The humans seemed to ignore all of it. Captain, Dr. Kale interjected, what is your species' position in local galactic politics? Politics. Stone looked genuinely confused. We just got here. We don't have a position on anything yet. We're still figuring out how things work. As the implications sank in, Vex realized the humans weren't representing a government or following a careful first contact protocol. They were simply exploring. And somehow, that made them more dangerous than any invasion fleet. 3 hours into humanity's first diplomatic contact, the carefully structured order of Nexus Prime began to unravel in ways no one had anticipated. It started in the station's main dining hall, where Captain Stone had suggested the humans join other species for a meal. The request seemed innocent enough, but Commander Vex quickly realized his mistake when he saw the results. Engineer Wilson sat at a table with 3 frustrated click technicians who had been struggling with a power distribution problem for weeks. Within minutes of hearing their explanation, Wilson had pulled out a small toolkit and sketched a solution on a napkin. See, the issue isn't your power source, Wilson explained, his hands moving as he talked. It's that you're trying to regulate flow at the source instead of at the point of use. Back home, we call this load balancing. The lead click engineer, Click 7, stared at the simple diagram. This method, it is not in our technical manuals. Probably because you solved the problem differently when you first developed the technology, Wilson replied. Different solutions for different situations. Want me to show you how to build a basic regulator? Across the dining hall, Dr. Chen found herself in conversation with a group of Vorton crystal shapers who were debating complex mathematical theories. The Vortons communicated through harmonic resonances, their crystalline bodies changing color as they processed information. Your approach to quantum mechanics is fascinating, Chen said, but have you considered treating the wave functions as probability clouds rather than discrete states? The eldest Vorton's colors shifted to deep purple, a sign of intense concentration. This concept, probability clouds, explained further. Meanwhile, Communications Officer Park had discovered the station's translation hub, where dozens of linguists worked to maintain communication between species. She watched them struggle with a particularly difficult phrase from a newly contacted race. Mind if I take a look? Park asked. Language puzzles are kind of my thing. The chief translator, a tall Alteran named Voss, looked skeptical. This phrase has no equivalent in any known language database. Park studied the symbols for a few minutes, then smiled. It's not a literal phrase. Look at the context. They're using metaphor. In human languages, we do this all the time. They're saying their hearts are like stars, which means they're expressing love or deep affection. Voss's eyes widened. Metaphorical communication. We had not considered this approach. But it was Captain Stone's interaction with the station's administrators that caused the biggest stir. He had asked for a tour of the facilities and was now standing in the main conference room, where representatives from 12 species were locked in heated debate about trade route disputes. The Kelveran system refuses to allow Zildjian ships passage through their space, complained Ambassador Rel, his tentacles writhing with frustration. They claim ancient territorial rights that predate council authority. And the Zildjians threaten economic sanctions if denied access, added Councillor Hex. These negotiations have been deadlocked for months. Stone listened for a few minutes, then raised his hand. "Excuse me, but can I ask a simple question?" The room fell silent. 12 species turned to stare at the human who had just interrupted a formal diplomatic session. "What do both sides actually want?" Stone asked. "I beg your pardon," Ambassador Rel replied. "Well, the Kelverans want to protect something. Their territory, their people, their resources. The Zildjians want efficient trade routes to support their economy. Those aren't mutually exclusive goals, right?" Councillor Hex's insectoid features showed confusion. "The territorial dispute has ancient roots. The legal precedents alone. But what if we ignored the legal stuff for a minute?" Stone interrupted gently, and just focused on the practical problem. The Zildjians need to move goods efficiently, and the Kelverans need security. Has anyone asked if there's a way to give both sides what they actually need? The room erupted in protests about protocol, precedent, and proper procedure. Stone waited patiently for the noise to die down. "Look, I know this isn't how things are usually done," he said, "but where I come from, when neighbors have problems, we try to find solutions that work for everyone. Maybe the Zildjians could provide security patrols for Kelveran space in exchange for passage rights, or establish joint monitoring stations. There are probably a dozen ways to solve this if both sides really want to." The simple suggestion hit the room like a shockwave. For months, both sides had been focused on who was right according to law and precedent. None had asked what practical solution might serve everyone's actual needs. Commander Vex watched from the observation deck as humans throughout his station began dissolving problems that had persisted for years. They weren't using superior technology or advanced diplomacy. They were simply asking different questions and assuming solutions were possible. And that assumption was proving dangerously contagious. The regret. 2 weeks after the humans' arrival, Commander Vex sat in his office staring at reports that would have seemed impossible just days earlier. The orderly hierarchical structure of Nexus Prime had been completely transformed, and he wasn't sure whether to celebrate or sound an evacuation alarm. The power distribution problem that had plagued Section 7 for 3 months was solved. Engineer Wilson's load balancing approach had been so successful that 12 other stations requested technical consultations. The clique engineers who had learned the technique were now teaching it to other species, breaking down technological barriers that had existed for centuries. Dr. Chen's probability cloud mathematics had revolutionized the Vorten's understanding of quantum mechanics, leading to breakthroughs in crystal matrix technology. 3 major universities across the galaxy had already requested copies of her research papers. The translation hub had become a center of excited activity as linguists discovered the concept of metaphorical language. Communication barriers that had hindered diplomacy for decades were dissolving as species learned to understand not just words, but cultural meaning. But it was the diplomatic breakthrough that had sent shockwaves throughout the Galactic Council. The Kelveran-Zildjian trade dispute, which had consumed months of legal proceedings and threatened to destabilize an entire sector, had been resolved in a single afternoon. Captain Stone's suggestion of joint security patrols had evolved into a comprehensive partnership that not only solved the original problem but created new opportunities for both civilizations. "Sir, Officer Nix reported, entering his office with another stack of communications. We're receiving requests from 17 different species asking when they can meet with the humans. The Council has also requested a full report on human capabilities and intentions. Vex accepted the reports with growing unease. In 2 weeks, 12 humans had accomplished more diplomatic and technical progress than the combined efforts of thousands of Council specialists over several years. "What have we done?" he muttered. Dr. Kale appeared in his doorway, her usually composed features showing excitement and worry in equal measure. "Commander, we need to discuss the implications of human integration into galactic society." "Go ahead, Doctor." Their approach to problem-solving is unlike anything we've encountered. Most species develop solutions within established frameworks. We improve existing technology, follow diplomatic protocols, work within legal precedents. Humans seem to ignore frameworks entirely. Explain. They don't see barriers the same way we do. When faced with a problem, they don't ask what does precedent suggest, or what do the regulations permit. They ask what would actually work. It's simultaneously brilliant and terrifying. Vex nodded grimly. He had seen the pattern himself. The humans treated every challenge as if it were the first time anyone had encountered it, bringing fresh perspectives to problems that others had accepted as unsolvable. "There's something else," Dr. Kale continued. "Their social integration patterns. Watch this." She activated a holographic display showing the station's common areas. In every scene, humans could be seen in mixed groups with other species, talking, laughing, sharing meals, and working together. What made it remarkable was how natural it appeared. Most species maintain social boundaries even during cooperation, Kale explained. The Alterans work with cliques but rarely socialize. The Vortons collaborate with others but return to crystalline isolation afterward. Humans treat every interaction as potentially permanent social bonding, and the others are responding to it. Vex observed, watching a group of young cliques laughing at something Lisa Park had said. Exactly. They're breaking down social barriers that have existed since first contact between species. They're creating a truly integrated community rather than a collection of separate groups sharing space. The implications hit Vex like a physical blow. The Galactic Council's entire power structure was based on species remaining separate but cooperative. Trade agreements, territorial boundaries, resource allocation, everything depended on civilizations maintaining distinct identities and interests. If humans continued spreading their integrative approach, the careful balance of galactic politics could collapse within a generation. "Commander," Nix interrupted from the doorway. "Captain Stone is requesting a meeting with you. He says he has a proposal for improving station efficiency and wants to discuss expanding human-council relations." Vex felt his respiratory slits constrict with anxiety. The humans weren't trying to conquer anyone or impose their will through force. They were doing something far more dangerous. They were making everyone around them want to be better, to think differently, to solve problems that had been accepted as permanent fixtures of galactic life. "Send him in," Vex said quietly. As he waited for Captain Stone to arrive, Commander Vex realized the terrible truth. The humans hadn't come as conquerors or diplomats or traitors. They had come as catalysts for change that no one could stop and everyone would eventually want. They had seen a human ship on their scanners and welcomed it aboard. And now nothing would ever be the same again.